Hey you, so today I'm going to do a video on capitalizing on collector coins. So I'm going to give my tips and a bit of advice on things that I've gained from and experienced when I've been capitalizing and picking up collector coins, and just put it out there in a couple of scenarios that where you can capitalize when picking up collector coins. So obviously, as the title states, this is going to be collector coins. So for those that ain't into collector coins, i.e. poured and bars or just spot checkers, I know this isn't for you and it's nothing that you need to gain from. So just putting that out there. So I'm just going to throw a couple of tips out there, and there's a few experiences that I've had personally whilst I've been collecting, and just put them out there. So I'll just give a couple of tips and we'll just take it from there. So I've got a couple of coins on display here, coins that I've had experiences with where I've gained, where I've capitalized, and I'll just break into them and just show you a couple of experiences. Some are out of your hands and some ain't, but the most important one I'll mention we can all work on. So first and foremost, I'm going to say tip number one: capitalizing on collector coins is going to be hype. When the hype is ripe, you can always strike. So let's just do that little slogan there. So when I say hype, it's going to be for the flippers. The flippers will know all about this one, and this is one way that a lot of people capitalize on collector coins, and that's going to be flipping when the hype is ripe. So when the hype is ripe, that means demand is it's literally boiling. Demand for the coin is at fever point. And here's a prime example of that coin. It's the Peter Rabbit coin. I picked these up purely off of the hype off of last year, and I do like the 50p pieces, but this coin caused a frenzy once again. And I mean, the hype was at fever point. It was as big as it could be. And if you was a flipper, which there was many out there, you got to take full advantage of the demand. And this coin was released for 60 odd pound sterling. You had individuals flipping them online for up to 250, 300 pound. And that was a prime example of capitalizing on a coin while it was hot, while the hype was ripe. So that's going to be tip number one: capitalizing on coins when the hype is ripe. And that's going to be your early adapter, your flipper. There's always going to be coins out there. By no means is this the only coin that demand is going to, in the very beginning stages, demand is going to outstrip supply. And that's when you can really take full opportunity of the hype, and the hype is ripe, and then that's when you strike. And this is a prime example. So I grabbed a couple of these. They're simmering down, as was the case. The hype was just way too high. Like, you had queues on the Royal Mint site, like 100,000. That was just ridiculous. So they're simmering down now. So is the price. The hype isn't as strong, but I've no doubt in time it will mature. But it was the first in a series. I may just tap out and only grab these ones, but just showing this off as a prime example. As of recent, once again, it shut down the Royal Mint website, and some people walked away. But I've seen these available in the post office, so I think they may have over-minted this time round, but just don't want the hassle on their website. So here's a prime example and tip number one of how to capitalize on collector coins, and that's going to be hype. When the hype is right, it's always time to strike. That's going to be for your early adapters and your quick flippers. Hype. So that's just showing off that coin there. So the next one is going to be somewhat of a controversial, as it's been out there before, but not so. And it's one of the things I've seen you can really capitalize on real early and greatly if done. Now this one is somewhat out of your hands, and that's going to be when you're dealing with your mint errors and your die variations. As you can see, we've got one of the Dragon Phoenix error coins here, and as I mentioned, this one is out of your hands. So this is mainly when the mint does a boo-boo. But as I've mentioned before, when the mint does a boo-boo, it's like the biggest time an individual can capitalize, because they're not charities, they're not doing this for free, and they're churning out more than ever because prices of metals and so forth. So whereas once upon a time mints were doing it mainly focused more at the collector, and so they was taking a lot of the collector rules into account. Nowadays they'll churn out as much as they can. It's just that thing. People need, if you're in this game, it's something you're just gonna have to take on board. So whenever you come across, or fortunate enough to come across an error firsthand, I mean, you can really capitalize. And as I mentioned, this is out of your hands. So if you come across an error firsthand, or die variation firsthand, meaning you purchased a coin, you're totally unaware of the error and so forth, it's definitely a way to capitalize, and that's as you did on these coins. Now another way to capitalize on mint errors and die variations, it's going to be the next tip I'm giving. But if you have prior knowledge and you're you're fast enough to move, like my mate David did, shout out to David, and you pick some of these up after it's become aware, after the information's out there, then you can also capitalize on these. So that's going to be your mint, error, and die variations. That's going to be definitely another way that an individual into collector coins can capitalize, and that's on your mint, error, and die variations. They're on all types of coins. Many coins have some type of variation or errors, but this seems to be the one in the spotlight at the moment, and that's going to be mint, error, and die variations. So that's going to be capitalizing on collector coins, tip number 2. Now, the third tip, the biggest one of all, is going to be the broadest, and one I'm going to spend more time talking on. And this is the most important one. This one is going to be knowledge. This is going to be the broadest one here. So knowledge is power, as we all know. But in this case, when it comes to coin collecting, knowledge is going to be pounds and dollars. So that's what knowledge equals here, equals dollars and pounds. That's what knowledge equals here. As we all know, knowledge is power, but in this scenario here, knowledge is dollars and pounds. And that's going to be, as I'm showing these off, the most important thing when it comes to capitalizing off collector coins, knowledge. Now, as I said, it's the broadest, so it's going to be knowledge of information, as I'm showing these off, of maybe a mint error, a low mintage, an early release, and so forth. So we'll get into these. So when I say mint, a low mintage, let's give these coins that I recently done a video of as a prime example. Now there's two ways to this, because if you had knowledge that these were low mintage, you was able to capitalize straight away. But then if you also was armed with the knowledge, which isn't 100% confirmed here, that this mintage was not low, not due to lack of interest, but because the mint was having problems basically sourcing the materials to mint these coins in the larger sizes, that also plays a big factor, because that would mean many people did want this coin. So the knowledge of those two facts also lends in your favor in towards picking these up, because you'll have coins that have a low mintage due to lack of interest. So that's also good, so you can pick these up and you gain from there. But when you have a coin that has a low mintage, not from lack of interest, but because the mint didn't have the materials to source more of these coins, that also works in its favor and can really add to the value of the coin at a later date. So that's where knowledge has worked in this favor, just through having certain information. Now, I've come about this information, and I'll touch on information sources in a minute. I've come about this information from dealers. As I've mentioned before, it's not 100% confirmed, and it can all be speculation for all I know, but this was an information source that I have my finger on the pulse with, and that was from the dealers where I've come out this information. But it also led to me going in aggressively with these coins, because armed with that knowledge, I know the mintage would have been higher for sure if they was able to. And as I touched on, the Perth Mint prioritized on their kangaroos, which was more money for them, and apparently wasn't able to source enough silver that year. So that's where knowledge kicks in there, and that's where it's going to be very, very important. Now you're going to have another form of knowledge, and I'm going to display these coins as that. This is the 2 coin Perth kangaroo set. So this has been shown up before. But when it comes to knowledge on these coins, when I mentioned before having your finger on the information pulse, that's something that you're going to want to work on when you're working on knowledge when it comes to coins. Now, this is a prime example where it can work for you and on this coin, and I haven't seen it work for others. So when I say that this coin was released from the Perth Mint in conjunction with APMEX apparently, so it was a coin commissioned. But when you're looking for information sources to gain knowledge, one of the sources that are available is some mints, definitely the Perth Mint, have a upcoming releases page where you're able to see all the upcoming releases. So if you're armed with this information, many people don't bother with this information, you can be prepared to pick these up in quantity and maybe gain at a later date. Now on this coin, that would have been the case, as when the Perth Mint released these coins, I understand APMEX have them, or had exclusive rights to these coins, but they have them priced at double the price the Perth Mint have. So if you was fortunate enough and smart enough to pick these up from the Perth Mint when they had them for sale, you got this coin here for half the price that APMEX are currently selling them for. So knowledge kicked in from knowing it was a good coin, but I couldn't say it worked in your favor that you knew that APMEX would increase or double the price. But some dealers can be a little bit more greedy apparently. Now, another piece of information I've heard is that APMEX had full intentions of doubling the price on these. So some people knew this and picked up more, but a lot of people purchased from Perth Mint himself, which was a smart move. Now I say that it can sometimes work against you, because I've seen individuals do this, purchase from and the coins haven't been studs, they've been duds, so there was no gain, and in the long run you could get them for the dealer. Well, the majority of the coins are like that. You can get them for the dealer at a shorter price, so it doesn't always work. But on this coin, it being a first, and I'm a cooting up, so you got the first single proof since 2005 and so forth, it worked in people's favors that got these straight from Perth Mint, so they've capitalized straight away. So that's just a prime example of a coin with prior knowledge, purchasing it from the mint directly when the option's available, as opposed to purchasing from the dealer. So these coins are doing fantastic. So that's where prior knowledge kicks in there. So now when I say my finger on the pulse, or your finger on the pulse of knowledge, you have to really work out what type of knowledge sources you're going to be getting, because they can really work in your favor. Now with the recent release of the Swans as another prime example, now normally the Perth Mint may give a month's heads up and so forth. With the Swans, I understand there was a 48 window heads up, and then from there there was just a release. I understand it was commissioned again. Well, I don't know the whole commission order, but the bolt ended up with Perth Mint, APMEX. Now I was able to get these in quantity, but having prior knowledge and early knowledge enabled me to secure one of the best prices in Europe. And to mention a quick little mention, I had a lot of people contact me about that coin, and you have to remember, because of the time differences where you in the US and me here and so forth, it was hard for me to respond back to individuals. And so I understand with this coin, it's been the only coin that's been the case. The longer I took to respond, the higher. It was one of the cases where the coin was increasing in price every hour. So moving forward, I will be doing videos on coins that I'll be picking up, or even just coins I'm interested in. So that should help individuals asking whether I'm interested in the coin or what I think of it. But the Swan coin, which I should have here, but is a prime example of prior knowledge really did give the individual. So it was one of those things where the early bird got the best price, and that was with the Swan coin. So once again, armed with knowledge, you had individuals where when the dust settled, these coins sold out in 2 days, damn near worldwide. When the dust settled, they didn't even know the coin was available, and the secondary market at a much higher price was their only option. So that's where knowledge comes in on that angle there also. And now touching back on the information pulses, there's many forms of information or sources of information or places where you can acquire the information that's going to help you, where the knowledge is going to be dollars and pounds in this sense. Now it'd be great if some people can put some in the comments examples are mints. All mints, or some mints, Perth definitely have sources of information for upcoming releases. Armed with this information, it can work in your favor, especially with the collector coins. Just being the first one to know, as I mentioned, the early bird catches the cheapest worm. You have other sources of information, as I touched upon. I have a source of information where it could be dealers. That's a fantastic source of information to keep your finger on the pulse, as they have a prior heads up for many of the coins released also. That's been one of my best sources of information. You have YouTube. You have individuals that do YouTube videos on upcoming releases, or releases just as they drop, from the Peter Rabbit to the Swan coins. That's a fantastic source of information. You have forums, they're also a wealth of information. So if you've got your finger on these pulses and you work out the best blueprint for you, you'll be able to find out your best source of information and just be able to react real fast when it comes to collector coins, and either snagging a great deal where information is required, or just being ahead of the game. So that's going to be that tip there. Knowledge is dollars and pounds. So knowledge is number 3 tip. Now I'm going to put in an honorary mention, and that's going to be tip number 4, and that's going to be the first coin in a release. Now this used to be more important than I would say now, and that was because if you're taking the Lunar Series 2, for instance, the 1 ounce coins, now they're all capped at 300,000, but the mouse is not the most expensive coin to pick up now. It doesn't carry the biggest premium. This is why I'm saying it's an honorary mention, because it's tip number 4. But once upon a time, getting the first coin in the series meant you was guaranteed to have the coin that would be the most value. It's not the case now. From what I've personally seen, it's because there's a lot more coins out there. So, and there's a lot more to choose from. Even within a series, they may drop a coin and you may like the third coin, or the releases are so nice that you're getting a lot more opinions out there. Now that's a good thing. Some people may say there's too many collector coins out there, I don't like it, but you need the options and the choices to drive the collector's market, and also to put the coins out there that may dethrone the current champ. So I'm all for it, because they ain't all winners, and it's not all coins that everybody's jumping on board on. So many of the collector coins released by the mints fall at the wayside, but every mint, and this is an important thing, every single mint out there, whether they're Mr. Nobody mint to Perf mint, has a winning coin within their roster. So if you really want to go out there and be the best investor and really capitalize, it's definitely worth looking at all mints, because no matter what mint you point at, they're going to have a coin within their roster that's going to be a fantastic performing coin, whether it be on the secondary market or the first market for quick flips or long to medium term flips. So I'll just put that out there as in saying, once upon a time it would have been a definite grab the first coin in a series and you're guaranteed the best coin and you're guaranteed to capitalize at a later date. That was just one I put out there for sake's sake. So it would be great if you could put any other tips on information sources or any other tips on really capitalizing on collector coins in the comments for anybody that wants to contribute. Go ahead and subscribe if you ain't done so, and I'll catch you guys on the rebound.